Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm talking about Guillermo Del Toro's pulpy films. You know, the ones that aren't in Spanish. You know, because most of the early Del Toro stuff was the Spanish ones were the arty ones that got the awards, and the English language ones were the pulpy ones that didn't really. Were like, yeah, it's slumming. So I'm talking about the slumming ones. I mean, later on he made his arty films in English. I mean, like Shape of Water, which won the Oscar, and Crimson Peak. So those won't be included in this. I'm just going to talk about the kind of pulpier ones, the ones that are adaptations of comic books or things like that. So basically it's going to be Mimic, the two Hellboys, Blade 2 and Pacific Rim. Those are the films I'll be talking about. The other ones, nope. So I'll start with Mimic, since it's the first one he made. It's his first English language film, and it's probably his weakest film overall. I mean, it really is, but it's still, there's some enjoyable bits in it. I mean, it's a film he's kind of disowned slightly. Maybe not disowned, but he's pretty public about the troubles he went through making it and how horrible this experience was, and it was not great for him. This was the film he made after Kronos, which was his big success, and he was the new big thing, and so he went to Hollywood and made Mimic, which was a disaster. It was barely released, or it was released so threadbare that it disappeared pretty quick. And then we saw it, was like, was that it? Because it was obviously, even when I saw it, I saw it in video, it's obviously hacked about. You could tell bits were added and bits were missing, and in that hallmark of a film that the pacing wasn't right. The pace was always off. You felt the story elements had been cut out and thrown away or rewritten and pushed into places they weren't supposed to be. So the streamlined storytelling just wasn't there. It just felt like everything was squashed together in weird ways, and you were kind of waiting for little sequences that were very Del Toro-ish that made up for the kind of general mess. So there was lots of little moments, like the whole idea was there was a plague, and this scientist played by Mira Sorvino created something that cured the plague, but there was a side effect of these monsters, these mimics, cockroach creatures that are growing and end up in the sewers, which wasn't even planned. It was just like something that happened to after the cure. So the whole sequences of the plague and the cure, they were all great. They're wonderfully Del Toro-ish and very gothic-y, but modern gothic, like Catholic, but very twisted in the real world and wonderful stuff. And then you hit your first, like, oh god, he has to do some character stuff which doesn't look like he's that interested in. Like the two lead characters played by Jerry Northam and Mira Sorvino, good actors, but they're given kind of very vague characters. It feels like I've heard a lot of people rewrote these characters and no one ever got it right. I think it was changed so many times that it just was never really there. So the big problem is you have a film with central characters who are very ill defined. Like they haven't just figured out what they want to do with these characters. They're just like these. The actors are trying their best, but the characters are vague. But then you've got our older guy, and it is grandchild. The grandchild is kidnapped, and the older man is going to try and find him. That's great. That's very Del Toro, very kind of sometimes like a short story element within the film that's really working because it's very spare and very to the point. You know where you're going with it. It's delivered very clearly. But the rest of the film, it trundles on for a bit until you get down to the sewers, basically. And you get to the monster movie stuff. And that's when it really delivers. I mean, once it goes into the sewers, into the train, because you went to the subway, then into the sewers, all that stuff is very atmospheric. Even though, again, the plot's kind of clunky, the atmosphere's so good, and the moments are so good that you come along with it. I mean, Charles Dutton plays a grumpy guy who's in the security of the train station stuff, and he's a lot of fun. They have to protect themselves. There's lots of goo from these giant cockroaches that can mimic people, and there's lots of like gore and weird Del Toro-ish shots and lovely like orange backdrops and orange mixed with gothic. A very Del Toro thing, as you'll find out as you see his films. But there's a lot of gorgeous stuff in it, but it just doesn't click together. There's even a director's cut later, and even that doesn't really come together. It's still unsatisfying, although there's lots of really good moments, just because it just wasn't ever. Usually the film was never even written to the way it should have been to start with before they even got to filming. Then filming went along, and it just feels like it was always compromised, and you can never get beyond a broken state. So, but it is worth watching. It's just like watch with the lights out, you know, enjoy the atmosphere, but no, it's a very kind of cobbled together, messy film. It's easily Del Toro's worst film, but it's still an entertaining film. It's just a mess. Now we're going to the actual, I mean, that's like kind of pulpy, but not fully. This is before Del Toro embraced pulp. I mean, the film that made him embrace pulp the most, I think, that made him embrace the pulpy roots and just split between two different types of filmmaking. The kind of more serious, haunted film like Devil's Backbone or Pan's Labyrinth, and the pulp was probably Blade 2. Blade 2 was like a commission. They asked if we do Blade 2 after Mimic Disaster. It was only making Devil's Backbone, so they pushed this Blade 2 back to get him, because they wanted Del Toro to do the atmosphere. And Blade 2 is the only Blade film that's worth a damn, really. I mean, the first one had some good action scenes, but anytime Blade wasn't killing somebody, it was pretty tedious. Anytime he was killing someone, it was a lot of fun, but anytime there was actually dialogue and plot progression, it was kind of shit, really. It wasn't very good at all. And it's very overrated that way. It's just like, it's not that good a film. It's really clunky, and it does not really hang together unless someone's getting killed. And Blade Trinity, oh boy, it's a mess. Yeah, David Goyer wrote all of these, and actually, if you've got any knowledge of cinema, you know he's not a good writer. Basically, the two times he's actually been on projects that have been watchable is basically Blade 2 and the Dark Knight movies, where he had actually good people working on them with him and focusing him and getting rid of all his bad habits, you know, like Guillermo Del Toro and the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan, and then Jonathan Nolan, who's also a good writer. So there's lots of talent there to get away from his bad ideas and shape them properly. And even in Blade 2, the script itself is the weakest part of the film. I mean, it's basically the Dirty Dozen with vampires, a vampire Dirty Dozen. And they're against these things called Reapers. And the plot's a bloody mess. The plot doesn't really work like at all. But it doesn't matter because the visuals are so good. It's like, well, Mimic Del Toro seems to be trying to make something good. And this Blade 2, he's making a comic book film. The joys are the way the characters move like comic book characters, the way they're framed, the way light explodes in some sequences. Because vampires are vampires, they don't have real explosions, they have light grenades and stuff. All that is wonderful. The way he shoots Wesley Snipes' Blade is great. The way he just shoots the villains, he loves these monsters, these Reapers, who are these like Nosferatu type monsters who can move fast, and when they bite they turn you into these creatures who burn up and are just ravenous. They're not scary, but they're so entertaining. They're just really funny characters. And Luke Goss plays the lead villain from Bros, and it's just a wonderfully silly film. I mean, every plot development they have is stupid, but Del Toro doesn't care. He's just having fun with it. I mean, he's just saying, I mean, basically, a lot of the plot he just kind of ignores, but does it, and then he shoots in a very sincere way, well, letting you know, yeah, this is ridiculous, but we're going to have some fun. If our villain's at a dialogue scene, we'll have him, like, in a sea of red, walking and talking very slowly as if he's this like old monster. It's like every time he has to have like an exposition sequence, he goes way over the top with the visuals just to help you get through it. And then whenever you've got an action scene or a suspense scene, he's having a ball, just setting all that stuff up and having like the way the light hits against walls and the way people move through landscapes. It's just wonderful. And he's Ron Perlman is one of the vampires, and Ron Perlman's hammering it up like crazy, trying to be as Lee Marvin-ish as possible. It's just a wonderfully silly film. I mean, it's a epitome of guilty pleasure where the director's in the joke. It's great fun. It's just so much fun. Blade 2 is one of my favourite silly movies. It's just, I could watch this anytime. It's just so much fun. Okay, now we're going to the Hellboy films. Now there's a new Hellboy film coming out as I shoot this video that I am not going to see because it looks terrible and the reviews are pretty horrible and all the feedback's pretty horrible, and it's like, don't see this film, it's a mess type of thing. Well, Del Toro made Hellboy years ago, and there's maybe 3 of them, the only 2 are made, and instead of making this the 3rd one, they made this reboot that is a bomb and it's critically reviled, and is like, oh yeah, Del Toro went and made an Oscar winning film, well they made a terrible you know, Hellboy reboot. So Hellboy is, as silly as it sounds, it's basically a boy from hell who's released during a Nazi experiment as they try and deal with the supernatural to win the war. Hellboy's released from hell and is brought up by the American GIs and the Secret Services to be their fighter, their warrior against the supernatural forces. He's a big club hand and he's got horns which are shaved down so he can fit in, and he's red and he's talks like an American GI, played by Ron Perlman. He smokes cigars, he eats all junk food, he doesn't take any of the monsters seriously, he has names for them and just shoots them all the time and punches them, and it's just a hell of a lot of fun. He's basically a big kid, so you have a big kid in this sort of wonderful supernatural world. It's easy to talk about both the films at the same time rather than do them individually, because I think they are one of a piece really. I mean, the first one's introduction, so there's more introduction scenes. There's a character who you see the world through, who's in the second one, and you've got all these like bureaucrats he has to deal with, and since he's not very subtle, he's pretty bombastic. Hellboy is that he doesn't deal with bureaucracy very well. He tends to throw things through windows if he's mad. He's got a Fishman, Creature from the Black Lagoon type pal, Abe Sapien, that they're just pals, and Abe's the kind of sane one, the two. He's in love with this woman who can start fires from almost anything. Liz, he's in love with her, Hellboy's in love with her, she's kind of unsure about it, and their romance is the centre point of the films. And the buddy thing with Abe Sapien, Hellboy is another important thing. John Hurt plays his father, who dies early on, but the relationship is warm and is very important to Hellboy. What's great with these films is it goes forward from what they were doing, Toro did in Blade 2, which is, yeah, this is ridiculous, we're going to embrace it. So now he's got a world that he can embrace fully. Like in Blade 2, he had a world that was partially his own, partially, like a lot of the background stuff was very Del Toro, but a lot of the foreground stuff was tied to the first film, so it was half him, half not. But he really made a meal of it though, and really did some great stuff with it. This one it's based on a comic book that he really loves, and it allows him to embrace the fantasy and have all these background details and have Hellboy walk through these worlds. So sometimes when he's in the human world he has to get hidden, and when he's in the supernatural world he's just another guy who's dealing with he's almost like a beat cop. And you've got all these weird supernatural things, he's got all these weird charms on his hand so that he can use them against all these monsters, but he uses them, instead of being like something that's mystical, he just uses them almost like a bullet or something like that, where it's just like very practical point of view. And there's these wonderful elements in it. The first one of the villains, Rasputin, like Rasputin the Mad Monk, come back to life. He's all these like Nazi collaborators, and there's all the mechanical people and old Lovecraftian worlds and monsters from the world beyond, and it's just wonderful. This wonderful cascade of monsters that Hellboy's fighting throughout the movie, and it's hilarious. Just his reactions to these monsters interacting with the real world, and him just not caring that much and just being very kind of smart-ass about it. It's just wonderful because it mixes the tone so well. I mean, it's one of those films that some people like, some people don't like. It's one of those, like, you're gonna love it or you don't, you either get it or you don't. It's sort of like Big Trouble in Little China that way, where you're either gonna get what this film is or you're not gonna get what the film is. It's just, there's no in between. There's no like, I kinda get it. Now you either get it and love it, or you go, this isn't for me. It's like, they are kind of culty films. The second one, he's having to fight the Golden Army, which has been brought up by this prince of the underworld, prince of the fairies, who has seen the world of magic being destroyed by man and be replaced with mass consumerism, and he's like, our worlds are dying, we have to fight back, and Hellboy has to be the saviour of humanity, even though he doesn't really like humanity. And he's still trying to get together. He's got together with Liz in this one, and now he's trying to make it work as a relationship. And it was wonderful. They go into the kind of underground market with all these creatures. There's all these, like, it's much more expanded, and he's out in the world now. Everyone knows Hellboy exists, and he's having to deal with that as well. And it's just a wonderful sense of absurdity to it. It's just like Del Toro really embraces absurdity and the weirdness. Like, he can get the joy from the weird interaction between the two different worlds, and he can really enjoy setting up this magic world beneath the surface of our world, and how they can interact within a certain mythology that makes sense. So it's a wonderful set of world. I wish there was more of it, because it really, you feel like they could have made like an animation. They made some animated films, but they could have made like a series of these, like a Netflix series or something. They could have done something really cool with this and expanded the different stories, or even animated Netflix series. They could have done some really cool stuff. Instead of these two films they had to do, and the trouble with those two films, the big trouble with film is they feel cramped. Like they're just getting started and they stopped. It's like you feel like they were just getting the world set up, and then eventually they'd stop making these films, and it was like, we're just getting into this, and now you've stopped. So that's the downside of Hellboy films, but they are beautiful, wonderful films. I really love the Hellboy films. So if you like fantasy and you like some humour in your fantasy, this is the ones to see. It's almost like what would happen in Men in Black, where really weird and really love the monsters. It's that kind of thing of something that can be, something like Men in Black is the mainstream version of this kind of world. This is the kind of world that's done insane. It's like someone who saw Bride of Frankenstein 100 times as a child and want to make that as a whole world. You know, the Dr. Pretorius experiments type of thing. That's kind of what Del Toro is in these movies. Okay, we're now going to not Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim. It's started with a P. Okay, that's the final film. There was a terrible sequel to this one that Del Toro produced that killed off a lot of the characters that were great in the first film, and I'm not a fan of the sequel. The sequel just feels like a waste of the first film, and it feels like they really trashed a lot of what was great with the first film. So I just view it as the way I view the Terminator sequels Beyond 2, where it's like they don't really count as canon. They're just these things that were filmed but doesn't count. But Pacific Rim is terrific. Pacific Rim's so much fun. It's really as a throwback. It's sort of like imagine like a World War II movie with giant robots and fighting big monsters. That's what it is. But it's done in the guise of the people operating the big robots are like World War II fighter pilots. And in this, Del Toro embraces the cliche of that. He's not trying to transcend it in any like literary ways. He's embracing the cheese of it, but he's also doing these weird things around the side of it to make it very personal to him. And It really works. If you're into this kind of, if you love like Godzilla movies, this film's for you. If you love like giant robot movies and are disappointed by Transformer stuff, this is the film for you. I mean, it's just got some great sequences, but it doesn't overdo it. It remembers to introduce the world, stopping with the characters a bit, then go back to the action, stop, then go back to the action, and it stops and gives you pause and gives you a lot of world building so that the actual action scenes, when they happen, have an impact. Unlike the sequel where they just had action scenes, you're like, why am I watching this? Oh, right, yeah. So Charlie Hunnam plays the lead character, really somebody. It doesn't matter what his name is. Him and his brother were for the pilots of these Jaegers who were the big giant robots, and during the first action scene where you introduced the whole world, his brother was killed and he's like injured, so he walks away from the world for a few years and then is pulled back in when it turns out they're losing the war. The humans are losing against the giant monsters that are coming from the Pacific Sea. Because the first section of the film is when they're winning, when they're defeating these monsters, they're beating them up all the time. And his brother's dying is the first sign that maybe they're not invincible. And then basically most of the film is when the humans are at their lowest and have to try to fight back with very limited resources. So again, it gives you the idea of they're in a bad situation. And it's basically watching them try to work out the problem out. How do you defeat these monsters when you're outnumbered? There's nobody there who's going to come and help you. You've got these limited resources. You have to make do with that. Limited people, and some people are going to die, type of thing. It's wonderful, but it's also cheesy. But it's wonderfully cheesy, kind of like the Hellboy, where it knows it's cheesy. It's like it's not trying to make out it's a serious film. It's not a serious film, but it's a melodrama done with genuineness for the melodrama. So you have like Charlie Hunnam playing the lead character, playing it as someone who's seen a lot of these World War II movies. He's not playing a deep character, but he's playing the beats right for a character who can only have a certain amount of depth. If you push it too much, it'll ruin the mood of the film, so he has to play it kind of straight arrow. He's a straight man for the film. If he's straight, everyone else can go off and show off. So, because he's a straight man, you can have like Charlie Day be this weird scientist and go off and go way over the top. It means Idris Elba to be the leader of the whole thing and be cool, because someone else is carrying it, really. Allows the Miko, who's the adopted daughter of the Elba character, to be like the heart of the film, because she's the one with the emotional story. She's the one, she was a girl when they first attacked, and she lost her parents then, and she's an emotional connection to the situation. She's very smart, and she's the emotional. She's the one who has to prove to Idris Elba that she can fight and be in these big Jaegers, and she can do it. Like, she's the arc. Like, Charlie Hunnam doesn't really have an arc. He's like, he has to get his confidence back. That's all he's got in the film we do. I mean, he's got like half an arc at best. But basically has to be there and be supportive of the Miko character. And he does it really well, because he understands that's his part. It's not really about him in this film. He has to do the heavy lifting, but everyone else is the good parts. But he does it well though, because he comes across as a genuine enough an actor to actually know that it's not about me, this film. I just have to support these other show-off characters. You have Ron Perlman, of course, as a seedy black marketeer. He's great. He has a direction of Charlie Day. And his whole world is expanded. So you see he's been profiteering off all these attacks, and there's this whole subculture out of the dead bodies of the monsters that have thrived, and those new technologies come from that. The whole world of the world of them when they were winning, and the world of them when they're losing, is all really worked out and really planned out, and you can just spend your time looking at the background and seeing all the details, and it's beautiful and it's great. Just the whole thing is wonderful. And you've also got these great action scenes that try and see it in 3D if you can see it, because it really was worth it. As big a screen as possible for the action scenes. Because I mean, they are kind of like high-tech versions of street fights. You know, you actually can't, even though they're giant monsters, they're giant robots, they fight each other as if they're having a bar fight, like in a World War II epic. So the world and fighting style does connect to the 40s in every possible way. So it means it feels consistent as a world. So that's what's wonderful about it. It's just really terrifically done. I mean, the whole film is a wonder. But it's Pulp. And all these films I'm talking about are Pulp. They just are, but they're made by someone who knows he's making Pulp. And that's what's great about them. The same way that when Ray Harryhausen was making films, he was making Pulp and he knew it. I think when we look back in these films is, yeah, they were self-aware Pulp and they knew what they were doing. And I think a lot of people who are seeing these now, a lot of kids, and who are seeing a lot of the more big blockbuster films, these are the ones that probably remember more because they have more personality to them. And that's what's great about them. So I'd definitely say, try and see these films. They're wonderful. It's just experience them. They're not intellectual, they're just fun. But the joy is the way the camera moves in certain scenes, the way an actor is put against the light, the way a sequence is put together, and the undertones of the sequence, and the emotional melodrama of it, and being genuine about what's going on while also knowing the absurdity of it. It's just a wonderful set of films, which I'd really recommend. They're almost as pure as his more arty films, but in a different way. I think they're underrated compared to his artier films. It's like, yeah, they're the other ones. But there is a genuineness to these films as well that I think it has not been appreciated. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'll be back soon with another film.